verdict.
It's funny how some juries, people sit in different seats, and other jurors, they all sit in the same seat. Gives me something to do while they testifying. And this jury, everyone sits in the same seat.
All rise.
Everyone can have a seat. Everyone have a nice lunch? It's good, good. Any witnesses on behalf of the defense?
Absolutely, Your Honor. At this time, we would call Jason Meade to the stand.
Meade? Set the bottom. Can you raise your right hand? Can you solemnly swear, affirm under penalty of perjury, your testimony in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Have a seat. Pull yourself up close to the microphone. And you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
It's Michael Jason Meade. Spelling is M-E-A-D-E.
Sir, may I call you Jason?
Yes,
How old are you?
45 years old.
And where did you grow up?
I was born in Kentucky and moved to Southwest Columbus around 9 years old.
Where did you go to high school?
Graduated from Franklin Heights,
What year was that?
1996.
Describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your family growing up.
Good family. Got a mom and dad that are the best ever. My dad was a pastor of a church. My mom stayed at home and raised 3 boys and a girl.
Where are you in the lineup?
I am last.
So you're the youngest.
I'm the youngest.
My understanding is you have a twin, too.
Well, technically, he's 10 minutes behind me. So yes, I'm an older brother to 10 months, or 10 minutes, excuse me.
Are you married, sir?
I am. I've been married to my wife, Abby, for 22 years. She's my high school sweetheart.
So you guys met in high school.
Yes, since we were 16 years old.
And do you have any children?
I do. My daughter's 19. My son is 17.
And where do they go to school?
My daughter's in college. She's studying for psychology over at Cedarville, and my boy's a junior in high school in Mechanicsburg. Mechanicsburg. You can't get there from here.
Jason, once you graduated from high school, what did you do, sir?
Went right into the workforce, worked different jobs, construction jobs, ended up working even in telemarketing at one point. Then I went to the Marine Corps when I was 22 years old.
You said you went to the Marine Corps when you were 22.
Yes.
Describe, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that process.
Raise your hand. You swear to defend the United States of America from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I go to boot camp for about 13 weeks, and then I went into my MOS school. I stayed on active duty. I actually enlisted with the intention of being a reservist. Come back from active duty and hooked up with Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines out of Rickenbacker.
All right, you nervous, Jason?
Of course.
Slow down a little, okay?
I'm sorry.
So how long were you in the Marines?
8 years.
And when did you stop being in the Marines?
I actually got honorably discharged in 2008, August 31st of 2008.
So while you're in the Marines, there's active duty and inactive duty, correct?
Yeah, I was a reservist, and I was only active for trainings and then for deployment with Iraq.
So you were deployed to Iraq?
Yes, sir.
And how long were you there for?
The deployment for the Marine Corps was 7 months, so I was in country for 7 months, active for the year of 2005.
And you received an honorable discharge?
Yes, sir.
And were you working while you were in the reserves?
Yes. So I went in 2000s whenever I enlisted, ended up going to basic in 2001. But I got hired on with the sheriff's office, still working telemarketing jobs and construction until 2003, where I was hired at Franklin County Sheriff's Office. But I was still in the reserves at the time.
So while you were in the reserves, part of the Marine Corps, you were also working at the Franklin County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay. And I take it that was put on hold while you were deployed to Iraq?
Yeah, the year of 2005, I did not work at all for the Sheriff's Office because I was on orders.
When you came back from your deployment in Iraq, what position did you have at the Franklin County Sheriff's Office?
Working in the jail, corrections officer, downtown.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what that is.
Basic corrections is to maintain the health and welfare of pretrial detainees at the Franklin County Correctional Center. One I was over right here downtown, across the road here at 370 South Front Street.
Okay. And then how long were you in corrections, sir?
Total of 5 years, I believe.
After corrections, where did you go to?
I went to the Special Investigations Unit, primarily narcotics, working undercover.
What does the Special Investigations Unit mean, Jason?
It's a detective bureau, but it's a branch of the detective bureau that, again, my primary assignment was working on street level drugs, narcotics, working undercover, doing undercover transactions.
And as part of your training when you were a corrections officer, did you receive use of force training?
Yes,
As part of your training when you were in SIU, did you receive use of force training?
I did.
Fair to say that use of force is different in corrections than it is during undercover and SIU?
Yes.
How long were you in SIU for?
I was in SIU for a little over 2 years, and then I went into patrol.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what patrol is with regards to the Franklin County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, so basically patrol is responding to dispatch calls, dispatch runs, self-initiation on traffic stops, things like that, proactive policing, being on patrol.
When you're on patrol, are you dressed in a standard uniform?
Yes.
When you were back on SIU, you don't wear a uniform.
No, I worked undercover. I worked plain clothes.
When you worked plain clothes, did you also carry a weapon during the undercover operation?
Yes,
When you were on patrol, did you carry a weapon?
I did.
What type of gun did you use when you were on patrol?
A pistol, I carried an H&K USP 9mm. I'm sorry. Yeah, pistol, H&K USP 9mm is what I carried on patrol.
And when you're on patrol, what are some of the duties? What are you looking for while you're on patrol?
Looking for any criminal activity. Trying to be a proactive cop means you got to keep your eyes open. You got to be watching, especially being in a cruiser, driving around, keeping your eyes open for any possible criminal activity that may be happening.
Something gets your attention suspicious, you investigate, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're also sent out on runs, right?
Yeah.
From dispatch?
Yes, dispatch runs, but again, even being dispatched, you still, again, maintain proactive patrolling.
So you're there for 2 years. What is your next assignment, Jason?
Got on our SWAT team, Special Weapons and Tactics. You want me to explain that?
Please explain what that means.
I got selected for Special Weapons and Tactics. Part of that is you do a physical fitness evaluation. You get graded on your physical fitness. You also have to shoot expert firearms and show proficiency. You also have a peer review board where other deputies are evaluating you, question and answers, and then, of course, they take into consideration any performance evaluations from superiors as well.
Do you remember what year you started on SWAT?
I believe 2010.
Okay. And is the equipment and is the training different on SWAT in terms of use of force than it was for patrol versus SIU versus corrections?
The only difference would be the actual weapons and tactics that we employ, because we have different equipment.
Okay, what type of equipment were you given, this is issued to you by the Sheriff's Department, correct?
Yes, sir.
What type of equipment are you issued on the SWAT?
On the SWAT team, we're issued full automatic rifles, primarily for close quarters engagements and entries. At the time when I first got on, we still were using submachine gun, the MP5 9mm submachine gun. I don't want to bore you,
Down a
but
little bit.
sorry, yeah,
Recording everything.
sorry. We had submachine guns, and then also we had automatic rifles, the AR platform.
So the rifle that you had in here, that's something that you've used since you were on SWAT,
Yes, sir.
that time?
Yes,
Okay. And that's given to you by the administration?
it is.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the types of cases you would work on with regards to the SWAT team.
Okay, the cases that we work primarily is search warrants for narcotics, generally high, we're basically 911 for basic police. So they call us on any hostage situations, barricade situations, meaning if there's a chase that ends in someone barricading themselves in a house, they won't come out. We show up and employ tactics to try to apprehend the suspects.
And you operate that as a team, correct?
Yes, sir.
Versus when you're on patrol, you come in individuals on your own, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How many individuals have you investigated or arrested in terms of when you were on patrol?
I don't know, probably hundreds.
How long were you on SWAT for? How long were you on SWAT for?
Until 2020,
Okay.
so roughly 10 years.
The ladies and gentlemen of the jury have heard from Mr. Younglis about SoFast.
Yes.
You had the opportunity to join SoFast.
Yeah, the last, I believe, 4 years, I was I want to say 16 or 7. I think it might have been 2017 is whenever I got on SoFast. So maybe a little over 3 years.
And explain for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you get on this SoFast.
Okay, we had one of our deputies from the SWAT team on the SoFast, which they were explaining to you what that is. And somehow the marshal and the sheriff talked. They decided they wanted to add another sheriff from the SWAT team onto the SoFast team. So they asked who was interested. I told them I would. The guy that was there currently was a friend of mine, so we worked well together, and I liked working with him. So I went over and told him I'd try it out, and I liked it.
So you have to be approved by the U.S. Marshals, correct?
Yes, he had to be deputized and minimized through federally through the U.S. Marshal Service.
And then while you're on SoFast, do you get federal training in regards to use of force?
Yeah, not to drag it out, Younglis took a little while. The HERFA training, we do a abbreviated version of HERFA training, which is the high risk fugitive apprehension. We would do that with them also, which would be firearms training, shield techniques, different techniques of controlling homes and searching for individuals.
Describe for ladies and gentlemen of the jury the type of gear or equipment that's given to you or issued to you with regards to the SoFast.
SoFast specifically, I really only got their actual identification patches. So our tactical vests, that we call them tactical vests, they're bulletproof vests, but it's beyond just the soft bulletproof vest that a basic patrolman would wear. We also had pockets for inserts for plates that would withstand rifle fire. I had all that issued to me from the Franklin County SWAT team. So really the only thing I had issued from them was not only my take-home vehicle, but patches that would identify us so as not to cause confusion. While we're on any scene, that everyone would know we're a part of the U.S. Marshal Service.
And as part of the U.S. Marshal Services, describe for ladies and gentlemen of the jury the vehicle that you were issued.
I was issued I think it was a 2020 Ford F-150 crew cab, which would have been a 4-door. I think it was dark gray in color, and has, it's equipped also with lights in the front, red and blue lights that you can only see whenever you actually activate them. It kind of defeats the purpose of driving an unmarked car if you could see them. So they're not mounted on the roof. They're actually in the top visor area, and then in the back, and then on the side windows as well. But then when you activate your lights, it also changes the blinkers on the front and the rear as well.
In SOFAS, once you're on the SOFAS team, were you a full employee of the United States Marshals Task Force team?
I was a task force officer.
Were you, I apologize, were you a full-time task force?
I was a full-time task force officer, yes.
So every morning when you would go to work, where do you head to?
I always went to the task force office primarily. I was still with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office SWAT team, but it was basically if they needed me, they would call me for any search warrants or any kind of barricade situations.
So each morning when you go to work or when you leave work, you don't leave from the Sheriff's Department?
No, I went to the task force office with U.S. Marshals.
And back in 2020, was Mr. Young was your supervisor?
Yes, he was my team leader.
Describe, ladies and gentlemen, jury, a normal day or a typical day, so to speak, with SOFAS.
Whatever we prepare for the day before, we would try to execute warrants the next day. We'd start early in the morning. We'd usually meet up around 6 o'clock, kind of to echo what you'd already heard testified. Youngless is the team leader, so he designated who did what. It was based on whatever cases was distributed. We would brief, everybody would get their assignments, and then we'd take off to the next address that we were working. At the conclusion of each one of those warrants, whether it was successful and we apprehended a fugitive or we didn't, we would then debrief that situation, brief on the next one, and then go to the next warrant, and so on until the team leader said we're done for the day or go back to the office, which we would start preparing for the next day.
Are you issued body-worn cameras by the U.S. Marshals Department?
No.
Are other agencies allowed to wear body-worn cameras?
Now, at the time I was on U.S. Marshals Service, we were restricted from wearing any kind of cameras.
So even if Franklin County said you're supposed to wear them, you can't wear them when you're with U.S. Marshals?
That was part of that word, or the acronym. Everybody that uses acronyms in the military and police work. The MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, was that no one is allowed to wear any kind of cameras along with U.S. Marshals.
So back, I want to take your attention to December 4th of 2020, okay?
Yes.
May I approach the witness here?
Hey,
I'm handing you what's been marked for identification purposes, Defendant's Exhibit R.
Okay.
Could you take a look at that?
Yes.
And what is that, for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
It's got me in a picture and then my truck's in the background.
Okay, so for the record, the truck is to the left of where you're standing?
Yeah, from where I am, the truck is to the left. It looks like red and blue light on the side.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
you may.
So if it,
That works.
so for the record, so when you're saying this is your vehicle here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's where you ended up parking or leaving it that day?
Yes.
Okay, and is that a fair and accurate depiction of your vehicle?
Yes, sir.
So take us to December 20th. How does the day start?
From December 4th.
December 4th, I'm sorry, December 4th of 2020. How does the day start?
Like most days, we met at the task force office. We briefed the first warrant that we were going to, and then we started our day just like we would normally do.
Subsequently, how did the Barber warrant come into the equation?
We had different deputies working with us from the SWAT team also, and it was brought to my attention, and I can't remember exactly how, but the Kendall Barber warrant, and it was significant because I was on the search warrant on Kendall Barber whenever we initially arrested him on a narcotics warrant at his house.
So you knew who Kendall Barber was?
I was familiar with who he was. It was kind of a funny story how I knew him. I had known him, or not personally, but I'd known him from the.
Came into contact with him prior.
Yes, sir.
Is that why you were then kind of briefing everybody on that aspect?
Yeah, we were trying, the guys that were there from the SWAT team that was on the search warrant was telling the others about our encounter with them from that search warrant. So yeah, I had information.
And what part of the day then do you guys decide to go to the address on State Street for Kendall Mark?
It was late morning, early afternoon. I believe it was before noon.
Okay. And so the whole team goes there? Mm-hmm. Tell the ladies and gentlemen, jury, what was the success of that warrant?
Oh, he wasn't there. Whoever ended up doing the speaking, I think it was the team leader, Youngless, ended up talking to, I believe, we found out it was Kendall's mother, and he was not there. And it was just an unsuccessful warrant.
Okay. And the whole team's there?
Yes, sir.
What's your understanding of what happens next in terms of what are you supposed to do for the day?
He told us we had previously tried one that had been called in before on a rape warrant. We got information that he would be coming back. It was a higher threat expectation because we actually knew that he carried a gun with him. So he told us, be on standby. We're definitely going to get called back because we had someone who was going to let us know whenever he got back home. So just be ready. In the meantime, take lunch and then head back to the task force office.
And is that what you did?
That's what I'd planned to do, yes.
When you walked the ladies and gentlemen jury, when they released you, you head to your car?
Yeah, I talked with, I was outside with Rosser and Yorkowitz, who were teammates of mine, and then there were a couple of guys from the SIU unit that were still kind of hanging around. It was their case. We briefly talked, and I can't even, it's just general conversation. In the meantime, I'm down in my gear, meaning I'm taking off my vest and stowing it in my truck. I set my pistol belt.
Oh, I'm sorry. What do you mean by stowing it?
We have a vault. I had a vault in the back of my truck. What it is it's lockable storage, for lack of better terms.
For safety purposes?
Yes.
I didn't hear what he said.
Could you repeat what you mean by stow it and the vault?
Okay, it's a lockable storage. Lockable. Sorry, I don't talk real good, I guess. I'm sorry. Trying to slow down for you.
Keep your voice up if you would.
Yes. It's lockable storage in the bed of my truck.
Why are you taking that stuff off?
Because I'm not comfortable to wear it for too long, so I'd already wore it all morning, and I just took it off to drive back to the task force office.
Let's talk about communications. How do you guys communicate on the U.S. Marshals Task Force?
On the radio, we have a U.S. Marshals service channel.
Okay. Tell me what you mean by radio. Is this a radio that's in your vehicle, like up on the dashboard?
Now, I have a handheld radio that also has a microphone on a little device that I wear on my vest, but then it also has an earpiece.
In your vehicle, do you have a radio capability to contact people?
Not mounted in the vehicle or anything, no.
Do you know what a Leeds computer is?
Yes.
Do you have what is a Leeds computer for the ladies and gentlemen?
Leeds computer, if you ever see anybody on patrol or any police officers, they have a little laptop in their car. That's a Leeds computer. They have Leeds access on that computer. I'm sure it has plenty of capabilities, but you have access to Leeds, which is a law enforcement access that you can run license plates and social security numbers, identifying people, things of that nature.
Did you have that in your U.S. Marshal issue truck?
No.
So is it fair to say when you guys communicate with each other, you use the radio?
Yes.
To me, a radio is one thing. Is this like a walkie-talkie?
Yeah, it's a walkie-talkie. They're just really expensive walkie-talkies.
So you're about to leave from the States. Tell the ladies and gentlemen jury the direction that you go.
Left States toward Ferris, which I believe is northbound on the States, and turned left on Ferris Road toward Coral Road, and I was going to go south on Coral Road.
You were going to go south on Carl Road, which means left.
Yes, sir.
What position did you pull out to, sir?
On the left lane, is that what you mean? The left lane is where I pulled up at the intersection.
So there's a lane behind you?
There's a lane to the right that you could turn right on.
The left lane is a left lane only?
Yes.
Okay. And tell ladies and gentlemen jury what you observed.
As soon as I pulled up to the intersection, it's a red light, and I happened to look to the right, and I seen a vehicle approaching from the north. It was a dark-colored, what looked like maybe a hatchback. And as it was approaching, what caught my eye as I saw movement in the window as it was approaching. As it got closer, I realized somebody's the occupant who's driving the car got a gun in his hand. And
How did you, you're saying, describe, ladies and gentlemen, what you said movement. What movement do you remember seeing?
I saw a movement almost like it was pumping, like this, toward the front to the windshield.
What did you observe after that?
Saw a man driving. As he was driving in his right hand, he had a pistol in his right hand, and he was pumping like this, and it appeared as though he was yelling or saying something.
Could you hear that?
No, I couldn't hear anything he was saying.
But you could see the weapon in his hand.
Yes, very clear. I could see the weapon in his hand.
What goes through your mind at that point, Jason?
I immediately grabbed the radio because I'd taken it out of my vest, so it's been disconnected from my earpiece, so now it's just in my hand.
What did you do?
I aired on the radio immediately to my team on the U.S. Marshals channel exactly what I had seen.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen, jury, what you remember saying.
Words to the effect of, hey guys, I'm at the intersection here at Carlton Ferris, and I've got a guy waving a gun.
Did you say it casual like that, Jason?
Oh no, I said it with urgency in my voice.
As you're doing that, what do you observe?
He then, as he makes the turn past me, I could see he was pointing the gun at the car that had just passed by him. He continued to make the turn, and then he was pointing his gun at me.
Okay, let's unpack that. So while you're saying this, where are your eyes?
Eyes are on his hand because he's got the gun in his hand.
So he makes a turn. So if you're in, for the record, if you're in your car, where does he make a turn to?
He turns right here beside me.
So he comes right up next to you.
Yes, right next to me.
And what does he do at that point?
That's whenever he points, as he's turning, he's pointing the gun at me and causing me to duck.
Why did you duck?
I thought he was going to shoot me.
So you saw him as the person drove by, you saw him point the gun towards you.
Yes, he pointed his gun at me.
And based on your training and experience, when someone points a gun at you, is that why you went back?
Yeah, it was immediate. I immediately flinched.
Did you reach for anything?
Yeah, I normally would keep a pistol right here in the door of my truck. And I actually reached for it and realized it wasn't there. And immediately I recall I just stowed that with my vest.
Did you continue to communicate with your team?
Yeah, so I've got the radio in my hand at the time, and I had already had somebody respond on the radio. It was Youngless who was responding, my team leader. And he was saying, is this our guy? Asking me, basically, is this our guy Kendall Barber? And I'm trying,
What was your response?
I said, no, it's not him. It's totally unrelated. And I'm airing that on the radio as this is all happening. My thumb never came off the radio, and in the process, I'm saying he's coming right past you right now, Rosser, talking about my teammate who was in a vehicle behind me.
Why did you say he's coming right past you now, Rosser?
So to alert him, if he just pointed his gun at me, I don't know that he's not going to point his gun at him and make sure he could see what I saw.
Did you know Rosser was behind you when
Yes.
you were leaving Estates Place?
Yes, I knew he was, because as we left together. I left, and then right after I left, he pulled out behind me, and I believe maybe there was one car between us.
So you've seen someone pumping a gun, you've seen someone point a gun at you. What goes through your mind at that point, Jason? What are you required to do lawfully?
I have to investigate.
Why?
It's my job. It's my duty.
Why can't you just call it in or have Rosser call it into Columbus? Why can't you just do that, Jason?
Because I'm a law enforcement officer. It's my duty to respond. That's my job.
Because the person had a gun in their hand?
Yes, because the threat that he posed.
Basis?
When he asked him, the question before that was it was leading.
Overruled.
Is that something that happens to you on a daily basis? Someone waving a gun and pointing it at you?
In a vehicle like that, it had never happened to me in my career.
Is there any doubt in your mind that the person was pointing a vehicle as you saw it approaching and pointed the gun at you when it came next to you?
No doubt at all.
What do you do at that point in time, Jason?
I try to make it as safe as possible to do a U-turn in the intersection, and then I turn around to try to pursue him.
Why? Why are you going to pursue him?
Because I don't know what his intentions are at this point. He just pointed a gun at me. I have no idea where he came from or what he's going to, and it's my lawful duty to investigate.
In terms of a threat, is a person with a gun waving it and pointing a threat?
Yes, it is.
Is it something that you're obligated to, that you have to go forward and investigate?
Yes, it is.
You make the U-turn. What happens then?
I made a U-turn, I'd lost sight of the car. I didn't know where he had turned.
Which car?
The car that, the dark colored hatchback car that had passed by with the driver who pointed his gun at me. I'd lost sight. So in the middle of me doing the U-turn, I'd lost sight of where he was. I had no idea.
You make the U-turn, what happens next, Jason?
I end up trying to look for him as I continue on, and I'm looking over, because there was a set of apartments on my right. I was looking down there, slowed to look down there to see if I saw the vehicle. I did not.
Prior to that, Jason, did you stop and did you tell Ross or anything more?
Yeah, I'd had my window down as I pulled up. I tried to stop and talk to Rosser and make visual contact with him also, saying, hey, did you see where he went? Something to that effect. I can't remember exactly what I'd said to him.
Ross's window rolled down?
Yeah.
Did you say it like that? What do you remember saying to him?
All right, hey, did you see where he went? I have no idea. I just lost sight of this car.
You had already aired he's coming at you, Russell, right?
Yes,
So is that why you said, did you see where he went?
yes.
So you assumed that he heard you,
I
right?
was under the presumption that he knew exactly what car I was talking about and exactly the situation that I was talking about.
What did you do then, sir?
I then continued on to Ferris and turned down Estates because it seemed logical in the short amount of time that had passed. I'm going to try this street first and see if I can locate this vehicle.
You let your team know what you saw, correct?
Yes,
Multiple times?
yes,
You let Rosser know, did you see where the guy went, right?
yes.
Okay. Ms. Stevens, may we, what have we marked this? This is, we're gonna play, for you, Jason, and we'll stop it at certain points. Is this government's or ours?
No, ours.
Our defendant's, exhibit
S.
S. Okay. So what do you see here, Jason? What is that a picture of?
It's Ferris Road and then
Heading which way?
it'd be east and west.
Okay. And could you stop it right there? Okay. And then that's at the 9:38 mark. What is that a picture of?
Currently, the vehicle is Ryan Rosser's truck.
Okay. And may we back up, Ms. Stevens? I apologize. To the 9:10 mark. Okay, you can stop it there. Okay, and at the top of that, by the yellow sign there, whose vehicle is that?
That was my vehicle.
Okay, if you could play that, Stevens. And if you stop that? And the vehicle that's now where the yellow thing is, that was following you, is that Brian Rosser's?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Stevens. If you'll stop, no, keep going, I'm sorry. Keep going, I apologize. Stop it, please. And at 9:51 on this video system, what is it just came into the picture there?
That was the vehicle I saw approaching the intersection and turning with the man in it that pointed the gun at me.
Okay. Ms. Stevens, if you could go to the other part of that exhibit. Okay, and what are we looking at here, Mr. Meade?
It's camera, the same street in the opposite direction.
Okay, so the opposite, so facing towards that intersection.
Yeah, as you can see the signals, the light signals.
Okay. And Ms. Stevens, if you would run that, please. If you'll stop that. So at the 9:20 mark, again, that's your vehicle.
Yes, it's my truck.
Okay, go ahead. And that's your vehicle slowing down as it approaches the intersection, correct?
Yes, it is.
Stop that, please.
Yes.
So when you testified earlier, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's in the left lane where you're at, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Stevens. Just stop that, please. And there's Mr. Rossers.
Rosser coming behind me, yes.
You'll take that back. If you go to the 9:20 mark. Now, I want you to try to look to the top right side, okay?
Okay. Yes.
And tell me when you see the vehicle in there that you saw. So this vehicle will be approaching from the right.
Yes. Right there.
Stop. So that's when you first noticed the vehicle from the right.
Yeah, I can see him approaching the intersection, yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I see.
but you use the laser pointer.
How'd that work?
Press
Oh, I see it now.
So where are you indicating that for the record? So the top right of the portion.
Yes.
So that's the, go ahead. So that's, whereabouts is the car?
Coming from this direction.
Okay, so that's, you look to the right and that's what you see.
Yes.
It's leading, Your Honor.
Overruled. Go ahead, Ms. Stevens. Now stop it, please. Put the pointer where the car is now.
Right there.
Right next to you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was that when the gun was pointed at you?
Yes.
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Stevens. You're airing at this point in time?
At this point, I'm airing on the radio, trying to also do the U-turn, and I just said he just passed by you, Ryan Rosser. And then here I'm stopping.
Stop.
making contact with him.
So you've done the U-turn?
Yes, I did the U-turn. Now I've stopped and actually made contact with Rosser in his window. Right there.
So that's you communicating with Rosser?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Stevens. That's you, for the record, going down that way?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what vehicle is that?
That's Rosser's vehicle. That's his truck coming back in my direction.
And Ms. Stevens, if you would go back to the other part of the video from the other view. And if you would go to about 9:45. You'll stop it there. So that was Mr. Goodson's vehicle.
Yes.
Well, you didn't know the person at the time.
No, of course not.
Go ahead. You told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that you turned and you tried to see if he was went where?
Oh, sorry.
Please?
Right.
Is that you with your tail lights on?
So I'm hitting my brakes right here because I'm trying to look back here to see, because this was the first access I could see for anybody to turn off of this road. Being that this was wide open, I believe that I would have seen him if he'd have turned into that parking lot.
So that point there at 10:08 is you hitting the brakes to see if the person went down that way?
Yes.
Okay. Go right ahead, Ms. Stevens. And your speed there, stop it, please. Were you looking down to the right in those areas?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you decide to take a right back onto that street?
As I'd stated, the reason why was it was the first street, and since I thought I was on him pretty quick as far as turning around to get visual back on him, I thought that was really about the only viable turn that he could have made.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. And all of that is a fair and accurate depiction. Have you ever seen that before?
No.
Okay.
Well, not until this. No.
Till just now?
Yes.
And So, but all of that is fair and accurate as you remember what happened.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Are you continuing to air stuff over your walkie-talkie?
Yeah, at this time, whenever I made the turn, really quickly, as soon as I turned onto Estates Place, I could see the suspect's vehicle up ahead of me on the left side of the road.
Okay, so you turn on
Estates Place.
Ferris.
Now, I was on Ferris and I turned south on Estates Place and immediately saw it and started airing airing that I've got him stopped, or I have the vehicle stopped up here.
Were you asked, did you give your location? of where-
So it was actually, I said, hey, I called it the target street. So anytime we work with the marshals, we refer to the target as who we're looking for, and then the address, target address. So to try to simplify, I was making reference to, he's going back to our target street to make sure that everyone who's responding would know it's back on the street where we just were.
What do you then observe, Jason?
I noticed he's parked on the left side of the road facing the wrong way.
What do you do?
So I'm airing on the radio the location. I pull up short just north of his position by a few houses because I have no protection on whatsoever. I already know that the suspect is armed and I have no weapon and I have no body armor at all. So if I'm to approach him, I want to give myself
So you see
much
the
protection.
car. You see the car?
Yes.
Can you see into the car from where you're at?
No.
Okay. So you pull over and tell ladies and gentlemen, jury, what you do when and you explain why. Tell them what you do when you pull over.
Pulled over to the right side of the road. I get out and I left my driver's side door open, went to the back at the truck vault that I explained earlier, the storage. I dropped the tailgate, opened up the storage, and I retrieved my bulletproof vest with the rifle plates in it. And I started putting it on.
Okay. Are you doing it like, hey, then I did this, then I did that?
No, I'm doing it. The explanation takes longer than it took me to actually do it. I threw it on as fast as I possibly could and start buckling up. There's a series of buckles and Velcro on these tactical vests.
What's the urgency, Jason? Why? What's the urgency here?
Because the suspect's still in the vehicle. Our best opportunity is try to contain him as best we can inside the vehicle. At the time, I'm getting my bulletproof vest on so that I have protection.
Was your goal to investigate at that time?
Yeah, to get up to him to investigate why he's doing what he's doing.
Based on your law enforcement experience, is it a criminal offense to be waving a gun and pointing it at somebody?
Yes.
Did you know any other thing about the person at that point in time?
No, nothing at all.
So you're there getting your stuff. When does Rosser get there?
As I'm getting the vest on, Rosser pulls up next to me in his truck and the windows are down. And I'm saying to him, hey, there's the vehicle right there. I'm pointing down the road and showing him which vehicle I'm talking about.
What happens next?
He starts asking me, I believe Rosser's the one who was asking.
Don't go into what he said.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
I interrupted you.
Hold on, Mr. Schroyer had done an objection.
Yeah, Your Honor, he didn't want us to go into what Rosser said, so that's why I interrupted.
Overruled or disdain.
You told Rosser what you saw.
Yeah, I told him what I saw as far as the location of the vehicle. And in the course of our discourse, I noticed meaning the driver of the car, had exited the car.
Okay. When he exited the car, what did you see?
When he got out of the car, I saw him get out of the car. He had a plastic bag in one hand, and I believe it was in his left hand, and then in his right hand, he still had the gun.
Did he see you?
Yes.
Were you facing him?
Yeah, so I'm facing him in between my truck and Rosser's truck, and I had already got my vest on, and I actually point and I say, hey, there he is. And through the discourse, I said, the guy with the gun, and he has the gun in his hand right now, to which,
You could see a gun in his right hand.
yes, I could see the gun in his right hand
What
clearly.
did you see in the left hand?
Plastic bag.
Did you see him lock a car or anything like that?
No.
Okay. What happens next, Jason?
In response to me pointing and yelling, there he is, he saw me, and he turned and he took off the other direction, running
You
from
say
us.
took off.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean to you at that point in time? What goes through your mind based on your training and experience, Jason?
That the suspect is trying to flee and elude police officers.
Okay. So you see a car parked the wrong way. The same car that the person with the gun in.
Yes,
You see the person out of the car now with a gun in the right hand and a bag in the left.
yes.
And what do you have on? Do you have your credentials on, or your identification?
So I have on, like I said, the patches are in letters that says U.S. Marshals, and it's also reflective white letters. It's a black tactical vest, so the white letters stand out pretty prominently. Then on the back, I have markings from U.S. Marshals as well.
Why is it urgent now that the person's eluding you? What does that mean based on your training, Jason?
The situation escalates when you have an armed threat already, armed with a weapon, a firearm especially, and then he sees us and takes off. It's escalated, and it becomes even more urgent to.
What did you do right at that point, Jason?
I jumped in the truck and I took off to try to catch up to him.
As fast as possible?
Fast as I could get there, yes.
Did you wait and see if Rosser and the others were following you?
No, I thought they were right with me.
Okay. So you go fair to say as fast as you can?
Fast as I could get up there.
What do you do, Jason?
I'd lost sight of him, so by the time I jump in the truck, because I'd grabbed my rifle, which was in the back seat. I grabbed my rifle and pulled the sling over my head, and I jumped into the driver's seat of the truck, closed the door, and I took off. By that time, I'd already lost sight of him, and all I saw was him. I'd lost sight of him because I saw him duck in behind a house.
Behind the house.
A house, yeah.
Did you see him go into the front part of the house?
No, so when he took off from this house, he bypassed all front doors and then cut in behind a fence.
So you get up to the area where the exhibit was with your car. What do you see, Jason?
So once I pulled up to where you saw in the picture where my truck stopped, I stopped because I could actually see the suspect opening the storm door and getting in, looking like going into a side door of a house.
Why is that an urgent? Why is that a threat, Jason?
He's an armed suspect. I don't know where he's come from. I don't know whose home this is. I don't know what he's going to do. All I know is he just pointed a gun at me, and now he's running from me.
Do you have the opportunity to find out what the address is and call it in?
I didn't know what the address was.
Do you have the opportunity to run the license plate and see?
No.
What type of harm can someone running through a neighborhood cause, Jason, based
So-
on your training and experience?
So the urgency of it, again, being that I'm on a tactical team, we do barricade hostage situations, things like that. If he gets into a home and takes hostages, he could go into a home, barricade himself. He could set up to ambush police officers. I've experienced about all of this.
Anything that's happened so far about the actions you've observed, it says that, strike that, it's a terrible question. Sorry, Jim. So the actions you've observed so far with this individual, starting at the intersection, are what?
It's a high threat.
Pumping of the gun?
Yes, starting with the pumping of the gun, driving with the gun in his hand, waving the gun around, pointing the gun at me, and then getting out of the vehicle with a gun in his hand, turning, running from me.
Does that mean based on your training experience, that you're supposed to pursue?
Yes,
Are you supposed to try to preserve the sanctity of life?
yes.
You get there, what do you see, what do you do, Jason?
I get out of the truck, I train my rifle on him as I'm trying to approach him as fast as I can while still maintaining the rifle on him, and I begin yelling, U.S. Marshals, police, get on the ground, show me your hands, get on the ground, drop the gun.
Was there any response?
No, there's no response from him.
When you were at your vehicle, when you first saw the person, how far away do you think you were?
I'm not sure, maybe 30 feet or so, 35 feet away.
Did you then go towards the person?
Yeah, I closed the distance and actually ended up stopping because the door then opened up,
Okay,
the interior door.
okay. So, are you going forward as you're yelling?
Yes, I'm going toward him. I'm closing the distance as I'm going toward him, and I'm yelling commands to drop the gun, show me his hands.
What are you trying to achieve right then when you're giving the commands?
I'm trying to get him to surrender.
Comply?
I just want him to, yes, I want him to surrender, and I want this to be over. I want it to end.
Stop.
No, he did not.
You're yelling multiple times?
Yes,
Okay. Identifying yourself
yes,
based on your training?
yes,
Okay. Drop the weapon?
yes.
Okay. Could you see the weapon at this point?
Now, at this time, it was at a point where he had his back to me, and the storm door was actually resting against him. He was trying to get the door open, and then as the door opened up, he had stepped up into the doorway and stopped.
What do you mean stop?
He had stepped up into the doorway and he stopped, and he kind of like, it almost, I don't know any other way of describing it than almost like an exhale, like he sighed. And he kind of shrugged, like dropped his shoulders.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I missed.
So
The words ran together and I missed part of that.
you're giving commands.
Yes,
When you were giving commands to stop and drop the weapon, okay? You
Yes.
couldn't see the weapon.
no, I couldn't see his hands because he had his back to me.
Okay. At that point in time, you're describing for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and Mr. Merkel that you saw his shoulders go down.
Yes.
Okay. What did that mean to you at that point in time?
When the door opened and he stepped up and stopped and dropped his shoulders, I thought he was going to surrender. I thought he was going to be over.
If he stopped right there, what was your next step?
So, well, immediately I stopped. I stopped closing the distance. I stopped and I began giving him more commands.
Where did you stop at?
I stopped just outside the fence. There was an opening in the fence and I stopped just outside the opening of the fence.
Based on your training, are you trying to back him out?
So I would have my intent was to call him back towards me.
Did you give him commands to show his hands?
Yes,
Okay. Did you see his hands at this point?
I could not see his hands.
What happens next, Jason?
After he had stopped, I give him more commands again, at which point he made a turn and pointed the gun back toward me.
And what did you do?
I stepped to the left and I shot him
Why?
because he pointed his gun at me. I thought I was going to die.
You're positive you saw that gun,
100% positive.
and you saw the gun come back towards you.
Yes.
Stand up, please, Jason, with the court's permission.
Wait.
If you'll turn and face the other way. So if you were that individual's facing you. You can't see the gun at this point, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how the shoulders shrugged.
He dropped like this.
Okay. You believe that was going to be, that he was going to comply?
That's when I thought he was going to comply.
You want to approach?
Just leave.
Overruled.
Okay. What went through your mind when the shoulders went down?
I thought he was going to surrender.
Had he dropped the gun there, what would you have done?
I would have given him orders to call him back towards me. I've done it plenty of times.
Is he still a threat, even if he drops the gun?
Oh, yeah, he's still a threat.
A potential threat?
Yes, he's a potential threat. He's not a deadly threat, but he's still a potential threat.
What happens next, Jason? Show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how he turns back towards you.
He had his back to me, and then he made a turn like this, bringing the gun up and pointing it back to me.
What went through your mind? Have a seat. What went through your mind when you saw that gun?
I thought he was going to shoot me. I'm thinking I don't want to die. For no very reason. I never thought I was going to have to shoot him. I thought he was going to give up. And he didn't.
You said you moved to the left. Why did you move to the left before you fired?
In all my training, anytime that we train, we constantly train to get offline, meaning wherever position you're in, whenever a threat presents itself, step to the left, step to the right, step somewhere, get offline as you engage. It helps you with protection. It gives you a better opportunity. Hopefully that if they're tracking your position, it gives you a tactical advantage.
Do you know how many times you pulled the trigger?
I pulled the trigger one time.
Okay. Why one time?
When I closed the distance with him, I had to actually, when he pointed the gun at me, I flipped the select fire switch to full auto.
Why did you flip it to full auto, Jason?
Because of the close proximity that I was with him, or I was with,
Based on your
within him.
training?
Yeah, so that's one of, yes, it is. It's based off of my training.
How fast, the ladies and gentlemen of the jury saw a demonstration with the click and the click of that. How fast do you do it, Jason?
Instantaneously. It's momentous.
And are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm left-handed.
And where were you, do you believe, when, in the general area, where were you, do you believe, when you fired your weapon?
Outside the gate. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Where I was geographically. Yes, I was just outside the gate.
Where was the individual?
He was inside the doorway
And why did you stop pressing the trigger?
because he dropped.
Okay. Which way did he drop?
It looked like he dropped straight down.
What were you trying to do when that gun came at you and you fired, Jason?
It stopped the deadly threat.
Did you have any other choice at that point?
I did not.
What happens next, Jason?
I hear the guys behind me saying, "You're all right, you're all right." And I look back and it's Rosser and Yorkowitz coming up closer to me.
What happens next?
I told him that the suspect's on the other side of the doorway. I said, he's on the other side of the doorway because you could see there was a glass storm door and the glass had fallen. You could actually see him laying just on the other side of the door.
What tactically or what, based on your training, are you guys doing at this point, Jason?
We have to go up and we still have to get up to him.
Do you know any?
His voice dropped, I didn't
Oh, that's okay.
I have to get up to him, sir.
Okay. Do you know anything that's going on in the house?
No.
Based on your training, what do you have to assume is going on in the house?
You can't really make assumptions of what's going on. All we could do is, as I told them to come up with me, he's on the other side of the door. We start making announcements into the house that if there's anybody in the house, get your hands where we can see them. This is the police coming in.
Do you know if there's other people in the house?
No, we still have to, I mean, if there's any presumption at all that there's already a deadly threat that's been presented, we have to present this, or we still have to expect there to be a threat.
Are you trained to try to expect the unexpected?
Of course.
Is there a million different things that could be going on in that house that could be criminal in nature?
Sure. That's why we approach it with more caution at this point, and we make our announcements loud and clear as we approach the doorway.
When you say we, who is we, Jason?
It was myself, Rosser, and Yorkowitz.
And what happens next?
We get to the door and open the door, and I asked Rosser to cover the left. The door,
What do you mean by cover the left, Jason?
meaning to make sure that the left side is covered with, I don't know, to make sure it's covered so that we don't have anybody step out on us on the left. So, because he was laying in the doorway, and there's a door right in front of the door.
Then, who goes into the kitchen?
Before we could even get to it, because he's laying in the doorway, I say cover the left, and he can't really cover the left because the door, I think he ended up having to force the door completely open. It was stuck on something. Rosser had to force so he could cover left, but as he tried to do that, he wasn't very successful. I said, and of course, the suspect's laying on the ground, and I'm yelling commands, show me your hands, of which he's not replying at all.
Why are you yelling commands to someone that's on the ground?
I don't know how I hit him. If I hit him, I have no idea. If he's injured, I don't know.
Describe for ladies and gentlemen of the jury the positioning of the body when on the ground.
He was laying face down, and his arms were still underneath him.
Like this, you mean, for the record, so you're putting.
I could not see his hands.
At this point in time, what do you do, Jason?
I asked them to cover me, and I stepped over his body, and I reached across, and I grabbed his right arm, and as I pulled his right arm, he had the gun laying right there underneath his right arm.
So explain that to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury again. So you step over, you're giving commands, correct?
Yes, I stepped over him, and then I reached back this way, and the reason I stepped over him was because it's so tight and it's so narrow in that area. For us to cover any possible threats that's still inside this house, I was trying to give my team the best angles possible to be able to cover me because, again, I can't see his hands. His hands are underneath his body like this. I can't see his hands. I don't know if there's still a threat.
So if he's face down, if I'm face down, okay?
Yes.
So you grabbed his right portion of his shoulder
Yes,
and turned him onto his back left.
onto his back, over the
Where
left,
did you see the gun at that point?
immediately underneath his right arm.
This right area?
Yes,
Right arm, right torso area?
yes.
And what type of gun was it?
It was the black pistol with the extended magazine that I saw him have earlier.
What did you do then, Jason?
To try to help clear room for guys to come in, I pulled the suspect into the kitchen and told the guys, watch out for the gun.
Okay, so you're alerting them that the gun's there?
Yes. Or one of them might have alerted me first. I don't remember.
Why do you have to pull the subject into the kitchen?
There was no room. There was no room to be able to get in.
What's the purpose of alerting them that the gun's there?
Because that's our threat. A firearm is our threat.
Did you touch the gun?
No, I never touched it.
Why would you never touch it?
I don't want to mess with anything that's on the scene. I've been on many scenes before in my life, and you try not to mess with anything.
Jason, why did you discharge your weapon on December 4th, 2020?
Because he pointed his gun at me. And I thought I was going to die.
You were in serious physical injury?
Yes.
Is there any doubt that he was going to cause you a serious physical injury or death?
No.
Is there any doubt that you saw the weapon?
No.
Subsequently, do you have to deal with people in the house?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and the jury what you do there.
You still got to do your job. You got to keep going. And we're calling out, myself and the other officers are trying to make contact with anybody else in the house. At one point, I saw one lady pop her head into the kitchen, and I was asking her, who is this coming in your house with a gun? She replied, nobody's coming in this house with a gun. And I'm telling her, just go to the front of the house. Everybody, if anybody's in the house, go to the front of the house. I heard a male voice from my left. I was facing into the kitchen. I heard a male's voice from the other side on the left where Rosser was covering. And I asked the same thing, who is this coming in your house with a gun? And the same reply, nobody's coming in this house with a gun. And then I heard Rosser say, telling different family members, go to the front of the house.
Did you try to call 911 or call the medics?
So at the time, I seen Yorkowitz was trying to air information on the radio, and I asked him, I said, did you give the address of the house where we're at? And he said, no. So I stepped back out front, I looked and I saw the numbers, and I confirmed it with, tried to confirm with the mailbox, and I don't remember exactly how I got it confirmed, but I gave the numbers on the radio, and I told them not only the address where we were, but get a medic started here for suspects with gunshot wounds.
Did you subsequently find out that this was someone's nephew that lived in the house?
That was after we got everybody out of the house.
How did that make you feel, Jason?
That's the way it'd make anybody feel. The family member just got killed.
By you?
Yes.
How did that make you feel, Jason?
Made me feel terrible.
Why?
Because no matter what physical training you do to respond to threats, you can't train for the emotional. You can't train for it. I don't know how else to say. They're out there crying, and it's a terrible, chaotic situation.
What did you think about at that point in time, Jason, about what you just did?
I remember thinking it was my boy's birthday. I just ruined his birthday. I thought,
You're a religious person, correct, Jason?
I am.
How do you deal with the sanctity of life in your occupation, Jason?
I love life. I love people. I love them. It's my honor to serve people, and I care for them deeply.
Was your response based on his actions that day?
Everything that I did was dictated by his actions. Yes, sir.
Would you have shot him if he dropped the gun?
Of course not.
Would you have shot your rifle if he complied?
No. No.
When you pull that trigger, do you know how many bullets are coming out?
I can only approximate.
Do you remember, Jason, when you made the U-turn and stuff and then went on, do you remember if you turned on your lights and siren?
I don't remember.
Do you know if you turned on your siren?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you know if you turned on your lights?
I'm not aware of if I did.
You got to watch that video, correct?
Yes, sir.
In that video, the car coming to the light to take left doesn't stop, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You gave a written statement, correct?
I did.
And what did you say about the car in that written statement,
And
Basis?
It's your savior.
Want to approach? Overruled.
You wrote out a statement. Okay.
Vicky wanted to come to the party, but, or Jill, what am I saying, Vicky?
And proceed, John.
Yeah.
When you made the written statement, how long was that after December 4th, 2020?
I don't remember. It wasn't long after.
Month, couple weeks?
maybe a few weeks,
Okay. What did you base that statement on?
off of memory, everything I could recall from that day.
Did you look at any videos, look at any evidence or anything like that when you made that statement?
No.
Did you try to do the best that you could with that statement?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember what you put about that intersection, whether the car stopped for the light or went through continuously?
Yeah, in the statement, I had said that the car had stopped.
Okay. You realize you're wrong about that, correct?
I do now, yes.
Are you lying to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
No, I'm not lying. I based it off of what I could remember, which the emphasis of my focus would have been a man in a car pointing and waving a gun at me.
You belong to a church?
I do.
Where is that church?
It's in Irwin, Ohio.
I'm sorry, do you,
Irwin, Ohio, Rosedale Church.
do you have a position there?
I am. I'm the pastor of the church.
What does that mean to be a pastor at a church?
Oversee the services, preach sermons.
How many pastors do you have? How many
I
pastors?
have myself and I have an assistant pastor.
How often do you conduct services?
3 services a week.
And as a pastor, do you give the sermon?
Yeah, some, not all of them, but most.
What is the purpose when you're giving a sermon to the ladies and gentlemen of your congregation?
Try to encourage the faith and try to encourage my brothers and sisters to follow by the word of God and to help each other.
Do you use examples?
I do. I use biblical examples or metaphoric examples, things of our life.
What type of religion is it?
We're Free Will Baptist.
Christianity?
Yeah, Christian.
How long have you been a pastor?
10 years, just over 10 years.
Do you speak at retreats?
I have, yes.
Do you remember speaking at the Ohio Free Will Baptist Men's Retreat?
Yes, 2018, January of 2018. I
How
remember.
many times have you spoken there?
One time there.
Okay. And where was that held at?
It's in Mount Gilead, Ohio.
Is it yearly?
Yes, they have it annually.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what that is.
The men's retreats, well, we normally have between 300 and 400 men that come out. It's a 3-day, multiple services throughout the day. It gives us the opportunity to come together and they have speakers speak and come together and try to help encourage each other.
Why men only?
Well, they do a women's only conference, and then of course they do a men only conference also. And I think the separation, the emphasis of the separation is so that men can be themselves. We're not always ourselves, I guess, with our wives.
What do you mean, be yourselves? What's the goal or the purpose of this retreat, the men's only retreat overall?
By and large, for the most part, is to kind of let down your defenses and show vulnerability and grow as men, become better husbands, better fathers.
Were you asked to be a speaker at that event?
Yeah, I was asked to speak at the very first service of that retreat.
And why did they ask you to, why were you asked to be the first speaker?
I was asked by the director of it to speak at the first service. He thought that my unique position in law enforcement and my relation of things that I do in my daily life could motivate and kind of encourage the men of the faith.
What are you trying to do with regards to men opening up? You mentioned something like that to ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that's the very purpose of it is so we always, it kind of like, we start on Thursday in the afternoon.
Go ahead.
We start on Thursday afternoon. Am I going?
No, you can continue.
Okay, I'm sorry. We start on Thursday afternoon, then we'll have a Thursday evening service, and then generally there's 3 services before the final evening service on Friday. And it's kind of known that the Friday evening service is when it takes that long before men finally will let down their defense and actually open up.
So you were trying to achieve that at the beginning?
Yeah, I actually stated that specifically in my sermon, that we don't have to wait till the end of Friday to try to get some things accomplished.
What examples did you give at that sermon, Jason?
The sermon was based out of Samuel on kind of a famous story of David and Goliath.
Why are you using David and Goliath? What are you trying to achieve with that example?
The aspect of David and Goliath, meaning that there was probably no more of a scarier situation to be in than the giant. He was a champion, and the entire army was afraid of him. And so here there's this army of Israel that was cowering to this big giant. And I likened it to us being this giant group here, that if we're not careful, we'll see the devil as this big giant and we will cower. And the reality is that God's made us more victorious. He's made us more than conquerors. So my whole objective was to get them to realize we don't have to wait to be hurt, but rather go on the offensive against the devil.
Did you use terms like that you hunt people for a living?
No, that was actually, if I can explain, no, that was used whenever I was qualifying myself. So speaking to the entire, not everybody there knows me. Obviously, there's 300 some people there. I'm a bivocational pastor, so not only do I pastor, but I also work in law enforcement, which is a very unique position as a pastor as it pertains to the Free Will Baptist faith. I was explaining what I do for a living to try to help qualify my expertise in explaining to folks the physical so that I could translate a spiritual meaning. And I made the reference of being with the U.S. Marshals, which popularized by TV was manhunt. And that's why I made the reference of I hunt people.
In the sermon to the 300 men or so with David and Goliath, did you use terms like you have to punch the devil first?
Yes, I did. I used David as the one who threw the first punch because of the precursors and because, of everything that the giant had done that showed he indicated harm to David.
And are you trying to apply what you know of use of force to a scripture and a biblical example?
That's exactly what it was. It was trying to, again, just like Jesus taught, use the physical to translate and to explain into application the spiritual. That was exactly what I was meaning to do.
And what did you ask them at the end of that? To come together and what?
And let's throw a punch together. And the only way to do that is through prayer. The only way to combat the devil is through prayer. So I invited every man to come up and throw a punch of prayer at the devil.
Does the person you now know Casey Goodson the devil, sir?
No, of course not. No.
Did you kneel down and pray as a group after punching the devil?
Yes, we did. Yes.
When you went up on December 4th, 2020 to Deputy Youngles, how did you feel, Jason?
I don't even remember the encounter with him.
You're not saying you made it up.
No, I believe it. I don't remember at the conclusion of what we were doing there. There was probably many people in her. I don't even know who drove me back to the SWAT building. I can't even remember.
What were you doing when you got the address so you're trying to clear the scene, correct?
Yes.
Make it safe.
Yes.
Why?
So I had already aired that we needed medics. And the only way that medics will arrive on scene and actually come in scene and to take over and work the gunshots would be if we give them a safe place. We have to be able to tell them that it's secure. It's our responsibility to make sure the scene is secure before we bring on medics. So at the time, I step out to make sure that everybody's coming to the correct address. I'm relying on others to air the information to the pertinent people. I'm not calling the medics myself. I'm airing it to my team. In the meantime, it's our responsibility to get the folks inside out so that we can clear and make sure that the place is safe. Again, we don't know who all's in here and we don't know what threats are still
So you're
present.
doing all that at the same time that you realized you took somebody's life.
Yes, sir. I didn't know, first of all, I didn't know that I had taken his life. I just know that I had had an engagement with him. I knew that one of the SOFAS members had already showed up and started doing CPR on him. And in the meanwhile, we are trying to clear people out and to make sure the place is safe. I had stepped in with one officer to help clear a bedroom. I don't even remember which bedroom it was, but I immediately jumped right back out because I knew I wanted to get the medics in there as fast as possible. So I stepped back out on the porch.
You've seen, again, everything you're testifying to is what you remember from that date,
Yes.
not what you've seen in this courtroom.
No, not at all.
One thing you have seen was a conversation between you and Mr. Phillips, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What was the question that was asked of you, Jason?
In the midst of all the different, well, the question from Terry Phillips, you mean, he asked me what was the call. I missed the call.
Okay. So what does that mean to you when someone says, what was the call? I missed the call.
It's police talk. Like a call means what was aired on the radio. Like what was the radio traffic?
Did you tell him what you aired?
Yeah, that's what he asked me was, what did you air? So I told him what I aired. I aired that there was a man on the street coming out of the car with a gun, going in the house with a gun. I was airing that as I was trying to catch up to him.
Did he ask you why you shot your gun?
No,
Had he asked you why you shot your gun, what would you have told him?
I would have told him plainly, it's because he pointed his gun at me.
There's no de-escalation. Couldn't you have done some de-escalation at that point, Jason? Couldn't you have done other things rather than fire?
No.
Why?
Because you don't have an opportunity to de-escalate. Once he points the gun at me and my life's in danger, I have to act.
May I have a moment?
You may.
Jason, that's all the questions I have for you right now.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our afternoon break. Do not discuss this case among yourselves. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on the case until it's finally submitted to you. Probably about 15, 20 minutes.
All rise.
I indicated it was a few weeks after, I'm not sure.
Few weeks. Okay, 2, 3.
I don't remember the exact date.
And it's important as a law enforcement officer to be accurate and complete, and you try to do it as much as completeness as possible. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
And so you try to put as much detail into that you can. Isn't that correct?
yes,
And you know the importance of accuracy, correct?
yes.
Now, it's true, isn't it, that physical evidence is, in criminal cases, it's really the most important evidence. Wouldn't you agree? You were investigating.
Yeah, I don't know what you're asking me.
Okay. Well, physical evidence as opposed to testimony.
Oh, no, I don't know that there's a weight, like a scale, is that what you're saying? No, I don't know which was more important, no, sir.
Okay, physical evidence doesn't lie, does it?
I don't know what you're asking me. I don't know how to answer that.
You know what physical evidence is?
Yes,
Okay. Testimony.
yes,
Physical evidence doesn't lie, it is what it is.
yes,
Yeah. Okay, as opposed to testimony, people can lie, they can not tell the truth, they could be inaccurate, correct?
correct.
Physical evidence doesn't, in other words, have a faulty memory, right?
Okay,
So, now, at the time, you gave the statement a few weeks afterwards. It was, this was fresh in your mind, correct?
yes,
Easily recalled, correct?
yes,
And you did provide that statement with as much detail as you could recall at that time. Is that right?
yes,
And you wanted to make sure you got as much detail in there as possible. Is that right?
yeah, I tried to, yes,
As much as important detail, correct?
yes,
Because you knew that this statement would be used in other forms, such as in a legal court, in court of law, right?
I know it's possible to, yes, I didn't know it was.
Well, I understand, but you understand the system. When you give a statement, it could be used in administrative, court of law, or wherever.
The statement I give was based off of my memory, the best I could recall. I don't know how else to answer that. For whatever use and whatever purpose was needed, sir.
Well, okay. So now during this procedure that we've had, okay, you have been, and your team, has been made available to a whole bunch of evidence. Is that correct?
What's my team? What do you mean?
Your legal team and you,
Okay,
through discovery. You know what discovery is, right?
yes.
And you did get a lot of discovery in this case.
I never took any of the discovery. I never reviewed any of it. I didn't have to.
You didn't review any of
To
it.
this very moment, sir, I've never looked at any of the discovery at all.
Okay, so you never even looked at the videos from the intersection of Carl and Ferris.
No, when they showed me the videos, it was the first time I've ever seen it. I didn't need it. I was there that day. That's why I wrote the statement based on everything I remembered. Anything that came in discovery, they had to tell me that they got discovery. They never showed it to me. I never read it. I never looked at anything.
So you're saying you'd never seen the video from Carl and Ferris?
No.
When was the first time you saw it?
When it's been presented in court.
How about the statement on the porch?
When you present it in court,
That's the first time you saw it.
to the best of my knowledge, I never saw any videos ever.
Okay. You will agree, won't you, that the video is different than your statement from Carl and Ferris?
Which video, sir?
Carl and Ferris video, the surveillance video of Carl and Ferris.
Yes, as I stated in my statement, that I had made the statement that he had stopped, and I was mistaken about him stopping.
Yeah, what you testified to here today.
That I was mistaken in my statement about him stopping, and I believe I was explaining why I was mistaken.
And isn't it true in your statement that you stated when you stopped at that intersection, you were only 10 feet away and you could see where the stopped vehicle was, correct?
In my statement, yes.
So you were mistaken on that.
Mistaken as my distance, you mean? It's whatever the lane is. I was approximating.
Don't speak over each other. You just, that's the question and you answer.
I was mistaken that he did not stop, yes.
Now, isn't it true in your statement that you stated the vehicle stopped? You're now saying it's not true.
I said I was mistaken, you're correct.
Okay. Well, it's not true.
Okay.
Is correct?
Overruled.
No, the statement that he stopped is not accurate. I was mistaken.
And it's not true. He didn't stop.
I don't know how else to say it other than agree with you, sir. Yes, it's true.
And you stated in your statement to wait for the northbound traffic to clear. You're pretty specific about that, correct?
Yeah, that would have been the oncoming traffic to him.
Right. So you even gave a reason why he stopped. A few weeks after this, you gave a reason.
Yes.
Correct? But today you're saying, that didn't happen.
No, no. More accurately, after watching the video, he slowed to let it pass so that he could make the turn.
Because you've seen the video,
Yes,
and you know it doesn't match with this, correct?
yes.
And you also said, and as it did so, I saw the driver as it stopped, okay, in the intersection. That's when you said you saw the driver have a black handgun
Yes.
and specifically stated with an extended magazine in his right hand. Now, those are pretty specific words, correct?
Yes, they are.
But you're saying you didn't remember that now.
No, I remember that. What I had stated in my testimony was I was explaining why my emphasis and my focus was on the driver with the weapon in his hand. And I know that he had an extended magazine and then the pistol. I saw it as he passed right next to me. He was right beside me. And I saw him point the gun at me. I could see it had an extended magazine in it.
But your statement made at the time is inaccurate because he never stopped.
No, I was mistaken about the vehicle coming to a stop.
Okay.
So yes, I was wrong. I wasn't wrong about the point that I was making in my statement, sir. This is why it caught my attention. He had a gun in his hand pointed at me.
You went on to state, and let me explain this for me, okay? You went on to state that a car traveling northbound on Carl Road approached the intersection. That's not true, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so there was a car going northbound approaching the intersection?
Yes, there was one on the going northbound that, like I said, as I looked to my right, I could see him coming and he was waving and pointing the gun. And there was a vehicle to my right that turned northbound as well.
Okay. But you said that Mr. Goodson's car stopped to allow the northbound traffic to clear, didn't you?
Yes.
And that's not true. It doesn't appear in the physical evidence.
Well,
Well, he's specifically putting
Approach.
Josh, can you put that out for us?
You made? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, Mr. Meade, you identified, stop, stop. Back up a little further. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, stop. Now, Mr. Meade, you indicated that that circle in the red is Mr. Goodson's car, correct?
Yes.
And your truck is in the blue.
Yes.
And you just pulled up to the intersection,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in your previous statement that you made, which now you say it's changed, he never stops. And the video shows that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we made
Now.
it clear that he didn't stop.
Okay.
Objection.
Sustain, move on.
Now, you also indicated that in there that the individual, after stopping, tracked the driver of the northbound car with his gun. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's play the video. Now. Okay. There wasn't a northbound car in the intersection, was there?
Yes.
Okay, which northbound car are you referring to?
Back up the video, I'll show you.
Okay, back up.
Right there, northbound. And then there's one turning northbound in the right lane.
So that's when you're claiming that you saw him track the vehicle
Yes.
with a gun.
Yes.
And at what point was it that, in that video, did you see him pumping the gun?
Doing it in that order. I was noticing him, I tried to point it out whenever I saw the video that I saw him well right there coming up.
All right? Now, the video that you just saw there, okay, shows Mr. Goodson making a continuous left-hand turn,
Objection, Your
taking
Honor.
about
That's an answer.
3
Let him finish the
seconds.
question.
Is that right?
Yeah, I would think about that time. Sorry,
Hold on.
sorry.
There was the objection and then.
And I said, have him finish the question.
It's very quick, correct?
That's your,
The turn was very quick.
yeah, he slowed, he didn't stop.
At this point, then, that you make the U-turn and you head back, you're passing Rosser and Yorkowitz. So let's play it a little farther. Now you continue to roll by your other SOFAS team members, all right?
Yeah, I slowed down at that point. Made contact with him.
You didn't stop.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean.
You didn't tell them what was going on at that point, correct?
I don't remember exactly the words that we exchanged. It was other than, did you see where the car went or something to that
You
effect?
continued to roll by them. You didn't stop to tell them why you're turning around.
No,
You didn't tell them about a threat, did you?
at that point,
Yeah.
no.
You never mentioned to them anything about what you saw in that intersection at that point, did you?
No, not at that point, I did not.
Yet you were pursuing.
Yes,
So you failed to communicate to them as to this serious threat that you just witnessed at that intersection.
no. I had actually aired it on the radio, everything that I had seen and witnessed, and even aired it on the radio specifically, Rosser, he's coming right past you right now.
But you didn't have to air it over the radio. You could have stopped and told them what was taking place.
That's goofy. You air everything on the radio. Everything that we do in police work, we air on the radio, no matter what it is.
Even if they're standing or they're in a vehicle right next to yours with the window down?
That's not the only backup I'm calling for. I'm calling to alert everybody that I can alert about the threat. So I aired it on the radio as I made the U-turn, and I'm under the presumption that he heard everything that I had just aired. So for the sake of redundancy, as I slowed and made contact with him through the window, I didn't go into everything that I had just aired on the radio again. That would be redundant.
But you didn't know whether they heard you or not, correct?
My exact words was, it was presumed that they heard me because they share the same radio channel that I do. I was radioing to them and even called him by name on the radio.
But you had no idea whether or not they got that message.
Yes, I believe that they heard that message loud and clear.
Because a lot of times, after you're done with SOFAS, everybody gears down, right? When you left the barber house,
Yeah, not everybody. And it's not every time.
and they take their mics out.
Not every time, no, sir.
But they do, don't they?
It may be that may be the case for some. I can't answer that question for everyone.
Okay, I'm not, but I'm just saying, you're aware that other SOFAS members will gear down, they take their vest off, you took your vest off,
Yeah, and I put my radio right in my cup holder.
right? You geared down.
Mhm.
In fact, you put it in the vault,
Yes,
okay? And you're aware that others do the same thing when they're leaving the scene.
I can't testify to what anybody else does. I can only tell you what I did that day and what I saw that day.
So then, I believe you testified that you went up and made a right-hand turn onto Estates Place. Is that right?
After I'd done the U-turn. Okay.
Okay. Is it correct?
That I turned right onto Estates Place. Yes.
And you traveled down to the area of Estates and Sale Road.
Yes.
That's correct, right?
Yes.
That's about, 100 yards away from the Goodson residence.
I don't know the exact distance. I know I was a few houses. I know I was a few houses north of where he was.
Well, it's about 100 yards, wasn't it?
Objection, Your Honor.
If you know.
If he knows.
That's the answer.
I don't know.
Okay. And it was there that you stopped because you wanted to put your gear back on.
Yes.
And it was at that point when you were out, that's when Rosser and Yorkowitz pull up in their truck, correct?
Yes.
You were aware at that point, you didn't become aware, they had, you didn't communicate with them and tell them even at that point in time as to what was going on.
Is that
Overruled if he can answer.
is at that time when I started speaking to him and telling him, there's the car.
Go, there's the car. Did you explain to them what this hot pursuit is all about?
As I explained, there's the car, and then after he had gotten out, then I said, there he is, the guy with the gun. And he's got a gun in his hand now.
So you didn't explain what the hot pursuit was about from the intersection that you just witnessed?
No. Again,
So they
I
were,
aired it on the radio. When I made a U-turn I touched base with him as I drove by him. I believe with everything in me, he knew everything about the entire situation.
You know, Mr. Meade, isn't it prudent police work to be in communication with fellow officers? You aired for backup, right?
Yes,
And they were there,
yes.
okay, yet you didn't tell them anything. Isn't that true?
Again, I'll explain it again. I didn't say anything to them in person because I had just aired all of this information on the radio. I am under the presumption that they heard everything that I stated.
I think it was back at the intersection where you saw you made your U-turn.
Yes.
Correct. Now, when you saw the vehicle making that continuous left-hand turn past you, okay? You were already airing. I think you said the button was depressed, and it was you were airing what you had just witnessed at the intersection with Mr. Goodson.
Yes.
Right? And I believe you testified that as he made the turn, okay, that you then reached to see if your firearm was there. You ducked.
Yes.
So that's when you were making your turn, because you'd started your turn to head back to his stance.
No, that's when he made the turn. That's when he made the turn onto Ferris right beside me. That's when I hadn't made the U-turn yet.
You were in the process of making the U-turn.
No, it was in the process of him making his turn. That's when he pointed a gun at me, and I was trying to air it on the radio at the time.
And that's when you realized that you said your handgun was in the vault.
Yes,
Now, back at Sales and Estates, okay, I believe you, in your statement, you got out and went to the vault in the back of the truck, correct?
yes,
And you got your tactical vest, correct?
yes,
And your handgun was there too, correct?
in the vault, yes.
Yeah. You didn't grab with the handgun with the vest, wasn't it?
I didn't understand your question.
The handgun was with your vest.
It was in a vault, yes. It's two, the vault is actually two drawers. One, I kept my vest in, the other, I kept my pistol belt in. My pistol belt has suspenders, and I think you heard it referred to as a thigh rig.
Okay.
It's in a different vault.
So you just took your tactical vest, but you did not take the thigh rig.
No, it was in the other drawer.
Well, it's not locked, is it?
Yeah, they have locks.
Was it locked?
I always lock up my firearms, yes, sir.
Okay, so you're saying on this day you locked it up into that drawer?
So when yeah, maybe I should have clarified that. When I stowed my pistol in, I locked.
Which were already there.
As I was putting it on, they were pulling up. I didn't have it on at the time.
Now, you started this off, and it's true in your statement, that you said that, your intentions were to do a field interview and or maybe an arrest. You remember making that in your statement?
Yes,
A field interview would be, what, just to inquire as to what took place. Isn't that true?
that would be yes, a field interview.
Yeah, it's, a field interview. There's nothing urgency about doing a field interview.
No, in my statement, I was describing what that I had reasonable articulable suspicion to go after and actually do a field interview slash possible arrest. There would be a possibility of an arrest. If there was no reason to arrest, then there wouldn't be an arrest.
Well, it's true in your statement in it, you said you intended to detain him for a field interview. Didn't you state that?
It's a technical term, yes.
What's a technical term?
As in, if I'm going to actually detain somebody, I have to have a reason to detain them.
It states here, and I'll show it to you. I intended to detain him for a field interview and/or arrest.
Yes.
So your intentions were to do a field interview and/or arrest.
Yes.
And there's field interviews done all the time by officers, aren't there?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And field interviews are like, hey, I see something, but I want to assess and get more information as to what's really going on, correct?
Yes.
And that was your intentions with the field interview.
No, the intention was to go after and pursue what I had seen and to investigate why he was doing that action, to get more information as much as possible.
So this is wrong in your statement a few weeks later saying you intended to detain him for a field interview.
No, because it says field interview and or arrest. Meaning it could have been one or the other. Could have been nothing.
Then you went on in the statement and you said that you thought you were duty bound under Ohio law to investigate, and then there's a slash, arrest the suspect.
Yes.
Okay. So an investigation is to try to learn more information about what took place. Right? You know what an investigation is?
Yes.
Okay. To maybe say, really, what was going on out here at this intersection, correct?
Yes, and I would have absolutely done that, had he had complied and actually worked with me.
Okay. And, it is legal if you have a carry concealed permit to carry a gun in a car, isn't it?
At the time, no. You're not allowed to drive around and point a gun and wave a gun around, especially a concealed carry owner.
It is legal to have a gun in a car, travel with a gun in a car, loaded, if you have a carry concealed permit at that time, isn't it?
Not in that manner, sir, no.
I didn't ask in that manner. Listen to my question, please. It is legal to have a firearm loaded in a car during that period of time, isn't it? If you have a carry concealed holder permit.
Yes, it is.
And the only reason you claim that it's illegal is because you claim he pointed it at a motorist that was going northbound. You said he tracked the car. Isn't that what you stated? in your
Yes.
statement? He tracked it.
Yes.
And that you claim when he passed you, what you perceived or what you claim you saw, and point the gun at you.
Yes, that's correct.
You were the only one to see this. Isn't it correct?
I don't know who else saw it.
You know, what's kind of interesting in your statement, you said, you're specific, okay? You stated, wow, the other car that went through that was traveling northbound, in case he was stopped there, even though I'm 10 feet away, I couldn't tell whether he saw Casey do that. Didn't you state that?
That's correct. I had no idea if he could see it or not.
So you're the only one that witnessed.
I don't know who else witnessed it. I just know I jumped on the radio and started airing it.
Hold on.
Answered multiple times.
I'll sustain that. Let's move on.
When he passed Ross and Yorkowitz, they didn't see anything, did they?
Objection, Your Honor, as to what anyone can see.
Sustained.
Or were you aware
Objection, Your Honor.
that he pointed the gun at
Sustained.
anyone else?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
It just keeps going.
Okay, back to Salem in the States, all right? So, you then claim in your statement that, as you were getting into the truck, your truck, or you saw the car at the end of the street, right?
Yes,
Now, this is a residential area, isn't it?
yes,
Okay, with homes, right?
yes.
Not businesses and stuff.
No, I don't think so.
This was about 12 o'clock noon, right?
Mhm.
In fact, it was a really pretty day that day, wasn't it? Sunny and everything, correct?
I think so. I think it was clear day.
And it was a Friday.
Yes, it was. I know it was a Friday.
So at that point, I think when you first said that you saw the car, Mr. Goodson, Casey hadn't gotten out of it yet. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And was Rosser and Yorkowitz there at that time?
Yeah, I believe they pulled up around that. I believe they were there around that time, yes.
Before Casey got out of the vehicle?
Yes. I think they were.
Pardon me?
I think they were.
You recall?
Best I can, because I ended up pointing out the car.
And you, I think I heard you. You then immediately yelled, "There he is," down at the end of the street to Rosser and Yorkowitz.
Yeah, I indicated to them and pointed in his direction and said, "There he is."
Okay. And could you see Casey's face?
I wasn't looking at his face.
Okay. You did see, though, that he had a bag.
Yes.
And it was a white bag.
I don't remember. I remember it looking like a plastic bag.
Okay, plastic bag.
Yes.
And you, at that point, jumps into your vehicle, and I think you said you sped off.
No, actually, at that point is when I pointed and I said, "There he is," and I saw he had the gun in his hand, and I said, "He still has the gun in his hand now."
So at this point, you really don't know what was going on down there at the intersection, or down there where the car was, right?
I don't know what you
he
mean.
was doing, right?
Doing in the car? No.
No, when he got out,
Yeah, I saw him get out of the car and he had a gun in his hand.
pretty reasonable to believe it's a residential area, right?
It is.
Okay. And wouldn't a reasonable person think, well, maybe he's going to his home?
Objection, Your Honor.
Calls for speculation, sustained.
Well, it's a reasonable, you were an officer, okay? Aren't these things that you would have to assess and making the determination as to what's going on?
Same objection, Your Honor, as to whether a person with a gun is reasonable in the neighborhood.
It's a speaking objection, Your Honor.
Well, re-ask the question.
Now, you as an officer, at each phase, an officer at the time, have to reassess all the time as to what's taking place, don't you?
Yes.
And because you may have been mistaken as to what your perceptions were
No.
at the intersection.
No way I was mistaken at what happened at the intersection, sir.
You could be mistaken as to what the driver of that car was doing.
No, he pointed his gun at me. There's no mistaking somebody pointing a gun at you. If anybody ever does it, you'll never forget it.
And now, your window was up at the time.
In my truck?
Your truck,
Yes.
and his window was up as well.
Yes.
So, but you've got to reassess. So at the end of the thing, this is a residential area, correct?
Yes.
So you as an officer okay, have to take all this into consideration.
What is
Where
this?
this person was going or doing or whatever. You came to the conclusion he was eluding you.
I don't know what your question is.
Well, I think you testified that you came to the conclusion in your mind, okay, that he was somehow trying to elude you
You haven't even got to that point. I don't know what you're asking me.
when he was leaving from his car to head towards the house.
When I pointed out that he got out of the car with the gun and he looked and he saw me, clearly marked, wearing identifiable markings, and saw me and take off and running, is when I determined he was eluding me. Is that, if that's what you mean?
Okay, all right. So clearly marked from 100 feet or yards or whatever, you had the mark, you had the distance, houses or whatever, you had Marshall on there, correct? No, yes.
Are you asking if I had marshals on my chest? Yes.
And you feel that that was been able to be visible at the end of the street where his house was?
Based on his actions, yes.
So you wanted him to know who you were, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've got a lot of tools in your tool bag here as a law enforcement officer, don't you?
I don't know what you're asking me. I don't have tools.
Well, that you use to try to enforce the law. Okay, you've got the truck with lights, correct?
My truck had lights, yes.
It had lights, police lights, right?
Yes.
You could have used those as opposed to just the vest, correct?
No, I did exactly what his actions dictated. I responded to what his actions were. You're asking if I had another course of action. I don't know what course of action you're trying to get me to take.
You want him to know who you are.
He saw me and he knew who I was. He looked, I'll put it like this. Here's a guy on the road, gets out with a gun and sees us and takes off running. Why would he take off running? Other than he recognized me as a law enforcement officer.
You would pursue him with your lights.
What, I'm sorry?
You want to identify who you are. Wouldn't you put your lights on?
No.
You wouldn't put your lights on. You're a law enforcement officer. You don't use your lights?
He turned and he ran away from me.
Okay, you
And I
got,
jumped in my truck and I followed after him to
let's
catch
talk
up
about
to
the
him.
other tools that you got. How about a siren? Did you turn the siren on, Mr. Meade?
No, I did not turn my siren on.
Well, that would certainly identify you, wouldn't it?
I don't know how I could identify myself any better than what I had done. It happened so fast that I responded as fast as I could to the actions that he was doing. I may not,
Yes.
Your Honor, maybe let
Lights.
question.
Mr. Schroyer, if you ask a question, you have to let the witness answer it.
Are you done?
I was responding the best that I could, as fast as I could. I grabbed my rifle, I put it on, I slung it over my head, I jumped back in my, jumped in my truck and I pursued him because he took off running from me.
Okay, which would be quicker? Okay, I'm just going to ask you, because you want to respond quick, don't you? Okay, which would be quicker? Before I get out of my truck and I see his car down there, flick my lights on, or leave my lights on and turn the siren on, or get out of my car, truck, go back to the vault, open up the bed of the truck, get in, and get a vest on. Now, you said you had to respond quick. Which is quicker?
That was so jumbled, I don't know what you're asking me. You just said, what's quicker, turn on lights or going to get my stuff?
To identify who you are.
To get my identification on wasn't the reason why I went back to the vault alone. It was also to protect myself. I just saw a gun pointed at me. He pointed a gun at me, and then when I returned on the street, I turned and I put on something to protect myself and to arm myself. Before I make an approach on anybody, especially when they have a gun on them, I am going to get protection. I'm going to get myself armed. That's priority number one. It changed as soon as he got out of the car, looked in my direction, saw us with a gun in his hand, and he took off running. He changed it. He escalated the situation. He caused the urgency, and he caused me to actually change my actions. Everything that I did was based off of what he'd done. So if you're asking, should I turn my lights on or turn my siren on, I've got to get to him and stop him from doing what he's doing as fast as I can.
What was he doing?
Running from us.
Oh, he was running?
Running from or taking off in the other direction as fast as he could, yes.
Running. Isn't it true in your statement? You never mentioned running, did you? In fact, what you stated was, he moved quickly. You didn't use the word running, did you?
No, I said he moved quickly because as soon as he took off moving, I then went back, closed up the vault, closed up my tailgate, and ended up keep going, doing what I was doing.
And when you took off, that by the time you got, he wasn't in sight, was he?
No, yeah, I saw him duck in. I saw him duck in. He was out of sight. I saw him duck in behind the house.
Duck in? Okay. You mean he went around the side of the house? What do you mean ducked in? Is that police lingo? What's ducked?
I guess it is. He ducked in behind the house thinking, or I don't know any other way of saying it, in an effort to get away from us.
I want to get back to sales and estates, where you're identifying yourself as to who you are, okay? Now, you also have two other SOFAST members there, right?
Yes.
Now, you could have said, okay, Rosser, Yorkowitz, blow the siren, put on your lights. You didn't, did you?
Again, there's so many different things that you can do in these situations. I did the best that I knew how to do in response to what he was doing.
Well, when he turned and looked at you with the bag of subs, and you claim, your contention is, that he had a gun as well, okay? Did you see anything else in his hands?
I saw he had a bag in his hand and a gun in his hand.
No keys?
No, I never saw keys.
Didn't see keys?
No.
Probably too far away.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay. So,
Staying culture.
by the way, do you have a bullhorn in there where you can talk?
Oh, what now?
You know, where you can talk over the loudspeaker in your truck?
Like a megaphone or something?
Yeah,
I don't have a
no,
megaphone.
you know, like some police officers, marked cruisers, they can speak.
I don't remember if I do or not. I never carried anything like a PA or something. I don't know.
PAs. So you didn't, you left Rosser and Yorkowitz, and then you flew down to the end of the street. I think that's very fast.
I got down as fast as I could, yes.
Because of some type of urgency, correct?
Yeah.
Now, back when I think you said something that you claim your contention is that Casey turned and looked at you and then turned back and started heading towards the house. He didn't point the gun at you then, did he?
On the street.
I'm talking about where you saw him down by his car.
No, he didn't. When he saw us, he took off the other direction.
He didn't point the weapon,
No.
if he had one. I mean, your contention is he had one.
Yes.
He never threatened you with that at that time, correct?
No.
He didn't acknowledge or say anything, correct?
Well, he acknowledged us by taking off away from us in the other direction. I don't know if he said anything. I never heard him say anything.
Well, let's ask you this. As a reasonable officer, you take into consideration that maybe that was his car,
Objection.
and that's his home, and he's going into the house.
I'm supposed to assume that? Is that what you're asking me?
I'm asking you if you assess and you take that into the matrix of determining whether there's really a threat taking place as to what's going on, because it's evolving, isn't it?
Yeah, it is evolving. The place where he went into around the back, he had actually parked in front of it, or not in front of it, but catty corner to it the wrong way, which gave me I don't understand why he parked the wrong way. And then he bypassed the entire front of the house and then cut in an open gate.
Okay, well, if there's,
That made me believe that this wasn't his place at all.
so you didn't believe that this was his house?
No, I had no idea. I couldn't think that I had no idea or no reason to think that this was his house at all. He didn't park, he parked in a manner that no one parks. You don't see people, it's the wrong way to park. And he bypassed the front door.
So he's on the wrong side of this residential neighborhood street. And were you aware that there was a fire hydrant in a driveway across the street from their house?
Was I aware of it at the time?
Yeah, did you see it?
No.
So you only looked at the direction that he parked.
Do you think that do you think I had time for that? I'm sorry, I guess I don't understand. There's no chance I have time for this.
Now, let me ask you this. You know, you saw the car parked. There was another car facing his car that was in front of Estate's place, wasn't there?
I don't know.
You don't remember whether there were two cars, his car parked in front of another vehicle facing his?
No, it wasn't. No, I don't know.
So you didn't observe that?
No.
If I tell you that there was a car like that, it would be pretty hard.
You guys want to approach? Good, Joe?
All right, Mr. Meade. So before leaving estates and or sales and estates, you get your rifle out from the back seat of the truck.
Yes.
And that's, I think you've been here, that was that Daniel Defense rifle that you carried.
Yes.
It was the one that you did shoot Casey with, correct?
Yes.
Now, you've had military experience, right?
Yes.
And you've carried similar weapons like this, is that right?
Yes.
You know how to operate them.
Yes.
Okay. You heard what Mr. Worley testified to is the functionality of that weapon.
Yes.
You've got safe, select fire,
Yes.
safe, semi-automatic, and then a fully automatic. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You are left-handed.
Yes.
Now, I believe what you testified was when you jumped into your truck and headed down to the end of Estates and Case, that you didn't see Casey until you got down to when you pulled your truck in at an angle, correct?
Yes.
I believe it was at that time that you saw Casey pulling the storm door open to his home. Correct?
Overruled.
To a house. It's his home. We know it's his home now. Correct? Pulling the storm door open to his home.
Overruled.
Correct?
Just so when an objection is, let me rule on the objection before continuing to ask questions.
I saw him open the storm door.
Now,
I saw him open the storm door. Sorry.
now let's reassess now as a law enforcement officer. Okay? All right. At that point in time, isn't it reasonable to believe that possibility he lives there?
You're asking if that's reasonable to think that? I don't know. At the time, I don't know. I don't make assumptions on it.
So you didn't take that into your continuum of assessing and reassessing as to what was going on here? Because did you or did you not?
No, I did not.
So you did that, you started off saying you're going to investigate. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Okay, so did the investigation ended, it sounds like?
No, it changed whenever I pointed and said, there he is, and I saw him with the gun take off away from me.
That's when the investigation ended.
No, that's when it changed. You keep saying I have to reassess, and I do. That's when I reassessed, and it changed.
That's when you decided to pursue.
No, I had already decided to follow after him. This is just whenever now I have to get to him as fast as possible because it doesn't make sense what he's doing here. Everything that he's doing is indicating criminal activity. And now I know he has a gun in his hand and he's eluding police officers, and I'm to basically prepare for anything.
Okay, so you see Casey point open the storm door. Now, I believe that's your testimony. So to open a storm door, I think you'd have to use one hand or the other, correct?
Yeah, I imagine, yes.
Did he use his left or right hand to open that storm door?
I don't know.
It leaves one hand open, correct?
I don't know what you're asking me.
Well, he doesn't have anything in one hand because he's opened the storm door, correct?
I didn't see his hands. By the time, as I made the statement, he was opening the storm door. How he was doing it with what hand, I don't know.
So I'm asking you.
I don't know because I started to get out of my truck at that point to start giving him commands.
So did you not pay attention to him?
Well, I'm putting it in park and I still have to be able to open the door, so I might have taken my eyes off of him for a moment, but I didn't see which hand he opened the door with. I just know the storm door was resting against his back.
Well, not yet. Okay. Did you see-
I don't know what you mean.
Objection, Your Honor. Is there a question there? I mean, he's answering.
Re-ask a question.
So, that's when this urgency, you jumped out with your rifle and you trained it on him, correct?
Yes.
And training a rifle on somebody is aiming, correct?
Yes.
And you were aiming at center mass, isn't that true?
Basically, I'm training to keep my rifle up on him so that I can respond to whatever action he does.
You were aiming center mass.
I'm aiming, yes, best I can to center mass, yes, while still moving.
Now, this weapon has an aim dot, red dot sight.
It's an aim point red dot sight, yes, sir.
Thank you. You used that, didn't you?
Yes.
And that's what you used when you got out of the truck and raised your rifle, okay, and put the sight on the center of his back, didn't you?
Yes, and as close as I could to the center mass, yes.
His back was turned.
Yes.
Then I believe you said that you began to further approach him, right?
Yeah, I began to approach him as soon as I got out of my vehicle, giving him commands.
Now, so he's now got the storm door resting against his back. And you believe you stated you couldn't see either of his hands at that point.
Yes, that's correct.
True?
Yes, I could not.
Now, there was a main door to the house, right? Correct?
Yes.
Now, did you see Casey kicking it?
No.
Did you see Casey trying to barricade into it?
No.
Okay, did you see Casey do anything to get into that house other than use keys?
I never saw him use the keys. I never saw him do anything other than the door opened up. I couldn't see how he opened it up.
All right, well, let's use he just didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, it's true, isn't it? That the storm door was opened and he just didn't walk right in, else this would have never happened,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
So he stopped,
Yes.
okay? As a reasonable objective officer, I mean, would it be reasonable to believe somebody's using keys to get into their home?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I don't know how he got the door open.
But you agree, he just didn't open the storm door and walk right in?
Yeah, he did not. You know, he opened the door, and as I was getting closer, the door came open. I don't know. It was really fast.
Well, yeah, the envelope. I'm going to publish 2.2 triple P, State's Exhibit. Mr. Meade, do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
And that's the storm door you can see.
Is there a question there?
Okay. So at that point in time, I believe you stated that, that you came to I immediately, this is before, I immediately slammed on my brakes. I came to a screeching halt, and I jumped out of my truck and trained my rifle on the suspect. You said that, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Now, you indicated then that you closed the gap, I believe is what you stated.
Yeah, I closed the distance with him, yes.
Closed the distance, okay. Now, about how far was it from where you opened the door to your truck to where Casey was up on the porch?
I was, I don't know, approximately 25 feet or so, 30 feet maybe.
Okay, so close,
Yeah, he was really close.
very close for the type of weapon you had, correct?
It was a very close period.
Okay. And as a law enforcement officer, you're trained that if there's a threat, okay, that you should do something to protect yourself should there be this thing go south and somebody tries to shoot you. You need to take cover. Is that right?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Or seek concealment.
No, not necessarily, no.
So you're just going to run up on somebody that's armed.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay. But in this case, there was cover. And cover is that tree that was out there in the yard. That's cover, isn't it?
And I don't know, is there, I mean, is a tree cover? Is that what you're asking me?
In the Goodson,
I had no cover. No, I didn't have any cover. Between he and I, there was nothing between us.
when you got out of the truck, you used your truck as cover, correct?
No, I actually opened the driver's side door directly to him. I actually exposed myself immediately to him, so I had no cover.
His back was turned. Correct?
Sorry.
His back was turned at that time, correct? To you.
Yes,
Okay. And there's a tree right up there that you could have saw cover.
no,
There wasn't one.
no, there wasn't a tree between he and I, no,
Okay. You didn't see one.
no.
So fair to say that you didn't seek any cover. You were just approaching.
Yes.
Now, were you still intending to do a field interview?
No, at this time, I believe I had probable cause to arrest
Okay.
because of what based on my actions. I mean, I'm still, like I said, it's still, I have to get to him and stop him from doing what he's doing. And once I actually get him to comply with me, then I can figure it out and sort it out.
I guess I'm a little confused. Does it keep him from doing what he was doing?
Yeah, well, he was
He was
pointing.
going in a house.
No, and I'm talking about back at the intersection, whenever he was waving a gun and then pointing a gun at me. That's where it all started. Then it made me think he's trying to elude me because he saw me and he took off running from me. Now, at this point, he's trying to get into a house to continue to flee and elude me. So as I get out of my truck, I have to approach him to continue. I don't just get to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm done. I'm not a cop anymore. I got to keep going.
Well, no, but you got cops right on your heels.
Oh, yeah, I thought they were right with me.
Yeah, and at this point in time, there had been no other threats.
Oh, the threats, he still had the gun with him. As far as I knew, he still had the gun in his hand.
He did point it at you.
At that time, no, but he ended up pointing the
Nor
gun
did
at
he
me.
point it at you when he got out of his car.
Not at that time, but he still had the gun in his hand. He had just pointed the gun at me. He had just pointed the gun at me, got out, still had the gun in his hand. When he took off, he had the gun in his hand. So I'm still under the belief that he has the gun in his hand. I have no reason to think he doesn't have the gun in his hand.
Okay, well, you previously testified that you thought Rosser and Yorkowitz was right on your heels, didn't you?
Yes.
Which would be right behind you.
Yeah, I thought they were right with me.
Okay. You didn't even look for him, did you?
No.
Instead, you were focused and laser beamed on Casey.
On the threat, yes. On actually trying to make an apprehension, yes.
Okay. That's a little different. So you're trying to make an apprehension.
Yes.
That means an arrest.
That means a detention, yes. Trying to keep it, to get him detained.
To do what?
To finish the investigation.
Okay. So that was your intentions at that point, arresting to continue your investigation.
To continue the investigation, yes, to complete the investigation.
Now, you do agree, don't you, that let's forget about this action. You do agree, don't you, that, you can't shoot somebody going in their house with Subway or with a bag and a gun, can you?
No,
And you can't shoot somebody for getting out of the car with a bag and a gun, can you?
to shoot them for that, no.
Yeah. I think the next thing you did said that you said you stopped a few feet outside the gate. Is that correct?
Yes,
Now, you've been in the courtroom. You see where the shell casings were located.
yes,
You were up close to where the shell casings were, weren't you? When they ejected out of your gun.
yes,
The location.
yes.
Now, when you gave your statement, okay, that you tried to be as complete as possible, okay, you didn't locate as to where you were standing. Isn't that true? In the statement, this 10-page statement that you
I thought I did. I was just a few feet outside the gate.
did you?
Yeah, I said in my statement, I stopped a few feet outside the gate, excuse me.
But you then stated that he started to step forward. Casey did. But he stopped at the threshold. Does that mean that does that mean he had stepped into the house?
I don't know. I don't know how far into the house that he got.
Well,
I just
I'm
know
just
he
saying,
was still in the doorway.
Talking about your statement here, you said he started to step forward.
Yeah,
Did he step forward?
Yeah, he started to step forward, but he stopped. How far? I don't know.
Well, where was he standing when he stopped?
He was still in the doorway.
Up, you had to take a step to get into the house, correct?
Yes,
Did he take that step and was standing inside?
it looked like he did, yes.
He did or did not?
It looked like he took a step. So if he had to step up or he stepped forward, I don't know.
Well, I guess if I'm standing, there's a porch, and then to enter the home, I'm not sure what you mean by threshold. When you entered the home,
Just staying inside the doorway. He was inside the doorway still.
so that would be taking, not on the porch, but standing on the doorway threshold.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. Step.
Overruled.
Within the area of that step. If he stepped up or he stepped or if he actually made the step up, I'm not sure.
Now, up to this point in time, isn't it true based on your statement that what you yelled was, U.S. Marshals, it's the police? Is this accurate?
Yeah, I said words to that effect. U.S. Marshals, it's the police.
I can show it to you, it's in quotes. If you put it in quotes in this,
Okay.
would those be your words?
Yes.
And then you said in your statement that you yelled to him to show me for him to show me his hands. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you yelled that while he was going into the house.
I yelled that was before the door opened up.
All right. Now, I believe you, what I'm seeing here, and what you testified, is that he appeared to side, his shoulders drooped, his body slightly sunk. I think Mr. Collins had to stand up and demonstrate this. Now, at that point in time, his back would have still been towards you, correct?
Yes.
Now, he's never turned around and looked at you.
No.
Okay. He's never said a word to you.
No.
And there's I guess, different conclusions that could be drawn from all that. Is that, one, he heard you and ignored you, correct? That's one conclusion I guess you could come to, correct?
Okay. Yes.
And there's also another conclusion that he didn't hear you, and that's why he didn't turn and look at you.
You're asking me in this case?
Those are-
Not in this case, no, sir.
So you can't, there's not two conclusions you can draw on this for him not to turn around and face you.
No, because I know he knew I was there.
You're aware, you sat in his courtroom, that he had AirPods in, correct?
I never saw him.
Okay, I didn't ask you that. You're aware that he had AirPods in, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and a lot of people own AirPods, correct?
I suppose, yes.
You own some?
I do.
Okay. Did you see them at the intersection?
No, I never saw him in his ears ever.
So, taking that into consideration, now let's go back. So the second scenario could be, is that he didn't hear you. Isn't that true?
No, I don't believe that. I never saw AirPods. And like I said, he knew I was there. Everything that he did based on his actions had nothing to do with whether or not I believe that he could hear me. I did what I did based off of his actions, and I can only respond to what his actions are. And his actions indicated he knew I was there.
By not turning and looking at you and not responding.
No, by seeing me and running from me, he knew I was there. And then on the approach, I yelled commands the entire time.
Let me back up. You said the statement's accurate. You never used the word running, Mr. Meade,
Okay.
did you?
In my statement, no.
Yes. But in coming into court here today, telling these ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you used the word running.
Yes.
And you never used that in this statement, did you?
Whenever I'm speaking, I may end up using a word differently than what I wrote in my statement, but it doesn't lose its effect and it doesn't lose its meaning. When I say he took off away from me, if that makes it better for you, when he turned and went in the opposite direction of me, he knew where I was. And he also had nothing to do with AirPods. Whether or not he heard me or not, he obviously knew I was there because he turned and he pointed a gun at me.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Does counsel on approach? Nope. Evening break. Do not discuss the case among yourselves. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. And again, Same thing tomorrow. I always forget to tell you everything.